The world of audio devices is really heating up, and it's no secret that Apple, the phone maker, is a big player in that world. Apple's headphones are iconic pieces of technology at this point. I mean, from the AirPods Max to the HomePod, it's impossible to avoid Apple headphones in public. But lately, Apple has been getting challenged in the audio space. Dyson, who has an incredible design reputation themselves, recently showed off their headphones that were made to rival the Apple AirPods Max. And now Bose, the historic premium audio brand, launched their newest brand campaign, and it looks familiar. But before we get into that, be sure to support the show by giving this episode a like, leaving a comment, and by, of course, subscribing. This is Ziggy the Designer, the show where we talk about the world of graphic design and the people that make it move. Design is all around us, so we might as well talk about it. If you don't know Bose, Bose is a premium audio brand founded 60 years ago. I mean, they make headphones, speakers, anything that plays audio, really. And they've built a reputation being one of the best in the game to do it. I mean, they're so good. You can find their speakers in Porsches and in Cadillacs. I mean, they're that good. Needless to say, Bose knows a thing or two about audio. So going into their 60th anniversary, Bose tapped in Collins, the equally legendary creative agency, to develop a new tone of voice for the brand and new brand visuals. Now I love Collins. They are the it agency, so to speak, right now. I mean, if you're a 20-something-year-old, odds are you've interacted with their work. I mean, they've worked with brands like Sweetgreen, Equinox. I love their work with Equinox, by the way. And, of course, they've worked with Spotify. As much as I personally love Collins, I couldn't help but think of Apple when looking at this Bose project. So let's get into it. If I were to describe this Bose rebrand using 3 words, they would be bold, dynamic, and colorful. Bose and Collins achieve these things by, they bring in this new custom typeface from the independent type foundry Tekio, and it takes the typography from that highly recognizable Bose wordmark and it builds it out into this whole new typeface. It brings in multiple bold weights and different italics. I mean, it's beautiful. I love it. Second, what they do is they utilize this fun, dynamic posing with the models in the art direction. I mean, it's as if you caught the models in the middle of an expressive, interpretive dance. It's really nice. And finally, what they do is, they pretty much use every color in the book. These colors are bright, they're saturated, they bring the energy to these new brand visuals. And if you couldn't tell, I'm a big fan of how Collins handled this rebrand. So how does this relate to Apple? So throughout this new brand campaign for Bose, there are cues from Apple commercials all over, specifically Apple's commercials for the AirPods and the HomePod, of course, Apple's audio products. These Apple ads, they were done by TBWA Media Arts Lab. Goodness, say that 5 times fast. This is the ad agency that was made specifically for Apple. And I mean, they only work with Apple. I mean, that's crazy. But I mean, these ads, they have a specific style and they have very specific elements. And we see those elements in these Bose spots. I mean, when we look at them, we see a lot of these colorful motion lines. It's almost as if you took a photo while moving the camera. And we see that same element in this Apple HomePod spot from 2018, directed by Spike Jonze. We also mentioned how Bose and Collins captured dynamic poses from their models. It's this very expressive, almost interpretive dance type of posing. And we see this type of movement in Apple spots for AirPods. And to bring that even further, right? These new Bose spots, they start off by featuring a person in a boring, everyday situation, but as soon as they turn on the music in their Bose headphones, suddenly their plain Jane surroundings are transformed into this exciting and lively space, and they start dancing and moving around like they're in a totally different world. It's the exact same concept that we see in those Apple AirPods Max. Now, am I accusing Collins of being a little too inspired by Apple? And I feel like when you're dealing in a niche industry like audio, there's bound to be some creative overlap, but I'm not going to discount that the creative looks similar. What I am saying is that Bose might be feeling a little pressure coming from Apple. I mean, Bose has been this reputable quality name in audio for decades, and suddenly you have a computer company vying for a piece of that market share. Here's the thing that comes with companies that try to compete with Apple. Apple's marketing is so strong. People are so tied to Apple's marketing. They're like the cool kid in school at this point, right? They're friends with everybody. Everybody loves the cool kid. So when a brand comes in and says, hey, we're different, we're better than the cool kid, we're better than Apple, typically the reaction has been, what? You think you're better than the cool kid? You think you're better than Apple over here? Buzz off. And I mean, we saw that in the early 2010s when companies started making Android tablets to compete with the iPad. And where are those Android tablets now? I mean, they're standing in the corner of the party because they tried to call out the cool kid. It looks like Bose is learning from the failures of other Apple competitors. Unlike those other Apple competitors, Bose is taking cues from Apple's aesthetic, trying to beat Apple at its own game. So what does this mean for the world of design? This new Bose brand campaign is an example of how design can be used as a tool in competition amongst brands. Yes, Bose is using elements that Apple used, and yes, those elements worked well when Apple used them. Bose is simply putting their tone of voice on those elements now. But now the question is, does competition need to dilute the creative? And what I mean by that is, as we've seen in the world of consumer packaged goods, which we talk about a lot here on this channel, when things get competitive, brands tend to take examples from what has worked with others, and they adopt them for themselves. It's a game of brand survival, not so much a game for living. But when our jobs as designers is to be creative, to push the envelope, and to communicate that competitive advantage for a brand, is it okay to play this game of survival? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. That's all I have for you today. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. In fact, share this with that Apple fanboy in your life. If you're a designer, odds are you know one, and if you don't know one, I hate to break it to you. But I've been Ziggy the Designer. If there are two things you need to know about me, it's that one, I love design, and two, I'm very opinionated. I'll talk with you all later. Bye-bye.